Hello and welcome to this episode of Excaliburr. We would like to take this time to welcome Bjorn. Hello, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. How you doing? Good to
I
see you,
have
friend.
never had a better day. Never had a better day, my
That's it. Can't have a bad day.
man. Man, I think I've met you probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and it's been a wild ride since then. You've been through a extreme amount of changes, and you've had to be exceptionally adaptable. Do you want to share some of those experiences with us, man?
Well, I'm assuming you're talking about retirement and transitioning back
Yes, sir.
into a different chaotic and wild civilian world. Um yeah, it's been a fun transition. It took a couple years to kind of get my head wrapped around a few things. Um let's see. Yeah, we met 2017, I believe.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, and I was just getting ready to retire then. Officially retired 2019, and yeah, spent a couple years trying to get my head fixed, and pretty much since then just been trucking along, trying to keep moving forward, new missions.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, something that a lot of men are finding themselves in right now, is that they've either transitioned into a different state of life, they've left the job, they've had some sort of catalyst that has thrown them into the deep end where they have no other choice but to swim. But it's exceptionally difficult task for a lot of people to go through. And speaking to you and speaking to you the last time, I found it very reassuring that you have taken a lot of what you learned in the military, but you've integrated it. A lot of people don't do that. They kind of just leave a particular learning experience and they don't take the knowledge that they have acquired and use it in other instances of their life. And I find that that's very respectful and also just I admire the fact that you've been able to do that.
Well, thank you. Thank the military, I guess. I joined the military when I was 17 years old. As an adult, it's really all I knew. I did have a couple years where I had tried to be a civilian again and decided that I really wasn't for me at the time and went back into the military anyway. Um, so yeah, and military's a lot of things, but one thing it's really good at is I think turning boys into men.
Yes,
Um you don't because you get put in situations where you just don't have a choice but to figure it out.
for sure.
So
Do you not find that that's lacking in today's world, though? There's no transition, there's no ritual that turns a boy into a man. It's just you're expected to suddenly be a man. I mean, in Africa, we have these rituals that we go through. In
it,
various different cultures, even in your culture, the Viking culture, there was a ritual of turning a boy into a man, and that's
yeah,
been
it
wrong.
is something though many cultures do. The West, not as much, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
Um, then I'd argue you probably have also, it doesn't help. I think right now 60% of men were probably raised by single moms.
Mm,
So they didn't have anything or that structure or that role model to give them a north star to go towards.
right.
So yeah, it is definitely a different time, different sorry, my mic sounds funny.
No, no worries at all.
So yeah, it's definitely a different time.
So,
But go ahead.
yeah, from your perspective, one of the biggest qualities that I see with all the guys that are coming out of the military is leadership. Obviously, we can go through various different qualities that the military helps you to develop. But you look at Jocko, you look at some of the Navy SEALs that are all making their names for themselves in the industry right now, and leadership is probably one of the most influential, I would say, because everything that you do in the military is life or death if you're not led properly, right? So
Yeah,
how would you take some of those characteristics and can you explain some of those qualities that you've been
ooh.
able to transition?
Let's see, this is always interesting. Yeah, leadership in the military, it's vital. The and it varies as well. I've had amazing leaders in the military, and I have had really, really bad leaders in the military. Let me assure
Okay.
you, they're not all perfect.
Yeah.
Um, there would be people that absolutely loved me as a leader, and there are people that absolutely hated me as a leader, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
Um, not everybody's perfect. Everybody's got their own ways of doing things. So, but yeah, the leadership, and you've got well, hell, just the acronym for leadership in the military is what your loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. So that's like the core acronym of leadership.
Okay.
And, integrity's huge.
Hmm.
Um, got to have good integrity. Yeah, be honest and ethical. People have to trust what your decisions are.
Yeah.
And trust that you're making the best decision with the information that you have at the moment, right? Because the decisions change. Um, just like the military teaches to being divisive or decisive. You have to be able to make a decision. Doesn't always have to be the right decision, but you have to
Okay.
make one and then adjust fire. Um,
Interesting.
so yeah, you can't just sit there. Something
Yeah.
has to be done. And that's something I see in today's world lacking a lot in men is
Hmm.
just being capable of making simple decisions.
Mm.
And just that thought process of there's no critical thinking as of, okay, oh well, I don't want to make the wrong decision. That's fine. But you
Mm.
still have to make a decision. And the only
Do you
way
think,
you get good at making good decisions is by making a lot of bad decisions. So that's how you get good at anything is by doing it.
so where do you think that comes from, though? Do you think that that comes from or stems from being ostracized or being brought up on making a bad decision? Because I mean, from my perspective, I've found that great leaders don't always make the right decision, like you said, but they make the decisions right.
Yeah, they,
And
they
that
they're
is,
making a decision and then they're
yeah,
moving the ball forward. And then when you go, okay, that's not going to work. We need to make a new decision and adjust fire, you
yes,
know. Um, but it's that decisiveness. It's being able to make a decision
yeah.
without just standing
Yeah, but
there.
so in today's industry or today's life, where do you think that comes from? The lack of decisiveness, because that has to have stemmed from somewhere. So
Honestly, I think man, that's a good question. Um, a lack of experience in anything.
okay,
It's hard to make a decision about something when you don't have any experience in it. Um, so I mean that's thought of part of it, right? People are afraid. Guys are afraid now. I mean,
yeah,
hell, I don't even think I know a guy under 30 who's ever been in a fight. You know,
wow,
and it's like that's mind blowing to me. I
yeah,
I grew up in an era where that's just what we did. Say it
right,
with your chest or don't say it at all.
hmm,
But now it's a completely different time, different. But every generation has different struggles, I guess you could say.
okay,
Um, but yeah, it's maybe just a thought process of fear, not having the confidence in your own abilities. It's hard to make a decision when you don't even trust yourself. And
interesting,
I would say a lot of it probably starts there.
right. Do you think that's one of the leading factors to why there's so much people acting out? Like there's these guys that are God forbid them, the people that are going up and shooting up schools and stuff like that, right? I find that that's if those men were developed in their confidence in themselves when they were being bullied or when they were having issues, they stood up for themselves, and if they got a beat down, they got a beat down, but at least they took a stand. Whereas now they build up this this emotion that can't be harnessed, and they led to a certain there's no outlet for it, right? And then all of a sudden they're led to only one way or another, which is acting out in a way that makes completely no sense to the
Well,
outside world.
I think you're touching into a kind of a different area in my perspective or my opinion, I guess you could say,
Okay.
because I look at those scenarios and I kind of blame upbringing, right? I blame that we've been telling men for the last 40 years to get in touch with your feelings and get in touch with your emotions and get in
Mm,
touch with your feminine side, right? That's
mhm,
that's been the message in the West. It's
okay.
not good to be a man. You need to get in touch with your emotions, wear your heart on your sleeve.
Mm,
Well, the problem with that concept is when women get in touch with their emotions are nurturing. They're
yes.
when men's emotions are violence and rage.
Mm,
So when you have a bunch of men who don't know how to control their emotions, that's kind of what you get.
yeah.
They're literally kind of doing what they've been told to do for the last, 20, 30, 40 years. They've gotten in touch with their emotions. It's
But in the
just
wrong
a
way.
man's emotions are very different than a woman's
Yeah.
emotions.
Well, that's brought down to biology, right? If you look at the biological differences between us,
Oh,
we
absolutely, absolutely,
are
absolutely. Yeah.
definitely made for fight or flight, right? That speed that we have and the cognitive differences as well as the physical differences are astronomical. But
Well, I
that
mean,
said, yeah,
humans were built for war. I mean, and human, it's kind of funny because humans are violence. For humans, violence is a way of life,
mhm.
and the fact that humans don't realize that is what actually makes them so dangerous.
That's touching on something like that Jordan Peterson said, right? Jordan Peterson said that we should be a monster. You should be
Yep,
a monster and
but
learn
learn how
how
to
to
control it.
control it. Precisely. That's the most critical point right there. And a lot of
Hmm.
people, they don't understand that martial arts and being in those sort of physical altercations gives you the ability to learn how to control when you are in that situation, right? You can never truly know how it is to be in a fight or be punched. You can fight, you can practice all day long, but as
but
soon as
but the
the
rules
first
change
time
as
you
soon
get
as you
that
get hit in
punch,
the mouth. Yeah,
exactly. When
all
you
the
hit him
training
off, it's
goes
a
out the
different
window.
story. But that's the planning that you need to have. You have to have that planning to be able to account for that. Once I
Oh,
get hit in the
absolutely. And if
my
you
brain's
train
gonna
long enough and hard enough, it just becomes
second nature.
almost a second nature. It's a muscle. Your training kicks in and you're just doing what you know you're supposed to do because you know it works.
Definitely.
You know,
Definitely.
so and that again, kind of going back to the military, you train, we laugh all the time because we laugh at, I guess civilians or even law enforcement because of how little training they really get compared to. So, and I'm not saying everybody in the military trains a lot. That is not what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But on average, we the what we train for is continuous. It's every day. And
Mhm.
then when you actually do it, it's just like, okay, now it's real, but I've done it 1,000 times.
And that's because there's no off days from life, right? And a lot of people have this circumstance, oh, I'm gonna take a rest day. I
Yeah.
mean, why you're
That's a
taking a
new
rest day from
concept
what?
I've been
Exactly.
seeing, like people complaining about working 8 hours a day. I'm like, Jesus Christ, when I was, 16, 17, 18 years old, I was working 18-hour
Mm,
days,
precisely.
going to the bar, going to sleep for 2 hours, and then waking up and doing it all over again. It's like,
Waking up one minute before you went to sleep.
yeah, you know, le- I mean, getting to PT formation when you just put the bottle down in your barracks room,
Yeah,
there's no excuses. You still have to do it.
precisely. And
And
that
that's
comes and
gone
goes.
now. There's no accountability anymore. There's excuses. Everybody has an excuse for everything now. That is crazy to me.
You can have excuses or you can have results, and a lot of people choose the excuse rate because it's just easier. But what is easy right now, if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. If you do what is hard, your life will be easy. That's a saying that I live my life by. But coming back to the leadership and
Yeah, confidence and
the qualities of leadership and confidence that we were talking about. how do you explain to young men how they can develop those qualities? Or how can any man, for that sake, because a lot of people right now that maybe are in IT or in positions of being in engineering, they don't have those qualities because they never had to interact with other males in that reference. They behind a computer. I was one of them. Behind a computer all day and just had to work with a PLC.
Mhm.
Uh, and from that perspective, my mindset when I had a team under me changed substantially because now all of a sudden I can't just look at the results that I need to accomplish, but rather how can we get more done that is not going to go be my way, which is like I like it specifically done this way. Now we have to delegate and say, okay, well, 80% is not acceptable, but there's
Well,
80% across the board.
yeah, and that's kind of interesting because I'm trying to get my head wrapped around all that. Yeah, because the other thing when once you have a team too, you're no longer the concern. The team is the concern, right? Like you as the leader, your job is to take care. Your job isn't to do the job. Your job is
Yeah,
to take care of your team so they can do the job. Because
exactly.
if you're taking care of your team, then your job, the mission's getting completed.
Yes.
Your team can't get the job done if they have problems,
Mhm.
right? So like for me at least, it was always in a lot of ways like, hey, everything good? Do you have everything you need to do what you need to get done? Is there anything that's going to restrict your abilities, or is there anything at home that's going to cause turmoil that we need to get taken care of before this, that once you become a leader, it's like the team becomes your priority, right? They're make sure your team is good and your team will make sure you're good.
Okay.
And it's even better when you get to build your own team.
Right. So it sounds like one of your main objectives as a leader is to remove roadblocks from your
Absolutely.
team state. And
That's
then
a good way to put it. Yeah.
the second is that you would put their priorities above your own because they become your way of getting things done. It's essentially it's an extension of you right now.
And
No longer being rather just you and them, but rather like they're part of your hand or they're like
yeah,
your
absolutely.
hand.
I am the keeper. Well, we used to say, like, even as so as a platoon sergeant, right? As a platoon sergeant, I have several platoon or team leaders in my platoon, and each team leader has their guys, right?
Okay.
So as the platoon sergeant, I am my team leaders are my hound dogs,
Okay.
right? I'm the keeper of the hounds. As long
Right.
as everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing and everything's taken care of and everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing,
Mhm.
I everything's good all the way up, right? If something
Okay.
down here is bad, then I need to release my hounds so they take care of that. And if my hounds aren't doing their job, that I have to take care of,
Right.
right? So if they're messing up, that's my fault. But if their guys are messing up, that's their fault.
Okay. So you created essentially what it sounds like. I've been reading this book by Ray Dalio called Principles, and it sounds very similar to what you are describing there. You created a machine because I like machines, right? That's
A
my
system,
mind
yes.
is, and you've created this system that there are different cogs in the wheel that
Mhm.
create different outputs, and you're the controller or the conductor of the machine that pulls the correct levers to get the results that you require. And if the earth moving vehicle doesn't go where you need it to go, then there's something wrong that's in the actual earth moving vehicle.
In some aspects, yes. I would agree with that. And then you have your other aspects on the other side, though, where your team is literally um, everybody working together to try and literally figure out a solution to a problem. You know.
Okay. Okay.
So coming from my field in the military, it is a little bit different than a lot of fields in the military. We work in 2 to 3 man teams. We're not big squads. So it was a little different. Your element is much smaller,
Hmm.
I guess you could say, and then you get attached into bigger elements to help them out on their mission. But the
Okay.
mission always, mission's first. Does
Yes.
it full stop. There's no argument in that. The mission comes first. So it's everybody working together and to get the mission done. And my job's to make sure everybody has what they need to get the mission done.
Yeah.
And their job's to make sure I have what I need to get the mission done.
Okay.
So, because we each have our own roles. So, like in my career field, as for on the bomb squad, explosive ordnance disposal,
Mhm.
only one of us is going to go down there and put our little fingers on anything,
Yeah,
right? The whole team ain't going down there to do it.
for sure.
So,
Yeah.
but it is the team's responsibility to help, come up with the best plan of attack.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so we have a good idea of what we're doing, but then they have to understand too, as the team leader, I picked the final plan, whether it's yours, whether it's his, whether it's the other person's, whether it's mine.
Mhm.
I'm going to pick the plan that I think is the best option because I'm the one going down
Yeah. Yeah,
there.
yeah. You
So if
put the
anything
most
goes
risk.
wrong,
Yeah.
it's because I picked it, not because
Yeah.
somebody else picked it.
Mhm.
So yeah, mindsets are very different, on that. And I think even in career fields, you start getting different shifts in mindsets in the military.
Okay.
So depending on what your jobs are, depends on what type of leadership you are or you have. I think there's good qualities to all leaders. Like I said, having a little compassion, um, emotional intelligence and critical thinking skills, being decisive, adaptability, communication, confidence, having a vision, integrity, honesty, even a little empathy. All these things are good qualities in leadership, but you're going to use each of those qualities differently depending on what you're doing.
So development wise, if you had to break this down into a system that could be repeatable, where would you start? And what are the qualities that you would start developing first to get you the results that you need or wanted?
Ooh, well, if you do it the military's way, you kind of break it down to nothing and then build it back up with confidence. That's the starting point. That's boot camp, right? Boot
Mhm.
camp, the whole point of boot camp is to take, the person who's never done or accomplished, the average person who's never done or accomplished anything in their life, and in a way kind of break them down so they understand you're part of a system or a team, and then build them back up with confidence as part of that team.
Okay,
Um,
so how do they develop that confidence? What are the key steps there? So from the first step, you said break the person down. So from my perspective, if I had to break somebody down or I had to get somebody to break themselves down, they would start by clearly defining where they are right now. Because that's step one. Where is it that you are right now? So if you're lazy, if you spend 5 hours behind the TV all day, if you're smoking weed, if you're drinking, blah 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 blah, be honest with yourself and tell you where you are right now, and then cross off all the activities that are not going to be beneficial to you. And that's going to be most people won't want to do that because a lot of people don't want to be honest with themselves. But you were not given the choice in boot camp, so I'm just trying to replicate an example of how we can start this procedure for the ordinary person that doesn't have the opportunity to go serve.
well, you don't. I'm not sure how you kind of do the breakdown part like the military does it, because most people aren't going to really allow you to run them dirty and ragged into the ground.
No, I'm talking
Uh,
about them doing it to themselves, right? So they have to, because a lot of people might not have the capabilities to go on a course or to sign up for a program. So out of
it's
out of
oh,
everything,
well,
just
you're
out
just
of
talking mentally. You're
yeah.
you're you're kind of okay. Yeah,
So how would
mentally,
they
it's
go about
just
starting this journey?
mentally it's man, I would argue even for me, when I got out of the military and kind of transitioned back into civilian world,
Mhm.
I think a big thing for me was realizing how much I didn't know about the civilian world. Um,
Okay.
like I joined the military in 1995, left for boot camp in the beginning of 96. And when I retired in 2019, that was a very different world I came back into.
Mhm.
And it changed really without me paying attention to it. Because
Right.
being in the military, you kind of see the world through the lens of the military. I think we talked about this once before.
Yes.
Is, you know, you hang around with military guys, you go to places with military guys, you live in military communities, you work in them on base. Your whole world kind of starts to revolve around the military.
Hmm.
Um, and then all of a sudden you get out of the military and you come back into the civilian world and you're like, oh shit, what happened?
Yeah.
I just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
I looked at the world through a very, very micro lens.
Hmm.
I guess you can say as a cog, as a cog of a cog of a cog in the wheel of the,
Yeah.
you know, military industrial complex.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
getting out of the military and coming back, the big realization was, oh shit, like things have changed. Something's wrong. You know, let's start at the beginning and figure out what the problems are.
Okay.
Um, and
And then how you fit into that. So that's
yeah,
so that's so
and
so that's the first thing that I'm talking about. So
yep.
if people had to start on this journey, they have to do a clear, concise step by step of where they are right now and identifying what the problems are.
Mhm.
Does that sound like a good first step?
Yeah, I would say you look at what you where you want to be, and take a very, very, very hard look at where you are. You
Okay.
know, don't sit there and go, I don't know why girls don't date me when you're a 35-year-old DoorDash driver.
Right.
You know, take a really hard look at you and
Hmm.
then think about where you want to be and see if they align
Yeah.
or if they don't.
For sure.
You know,
100%. And you know that, like, coming onto that point, right? Do you know how easy it is to be in the top 1% of males in the world?
it is crazy. I mean, hell, don't be fat. Let's just start there.
Right.
Your top 20% or less.
Yeah.
Just don't be fat. Um,
Well, okay, so I'm classified as obese according to my BMI. So I think there's some sort of skewed
well,
data there.
by BMI, or
Yeah.
because so like by body weight, I'm
Yeah.
classified as obese,
Hmm.
but by BMI, I am not. You know,
Well,
I would say I could still lose weight,
right,
but
right,
I am not 30% body fat or anything like that.
right.
You know,
But no, so I think the BMI is just your weight divided by your height squared, if I'm not mistaken. And
well, and
if it's a
measurements.
24, if it's a 24 or 25 over, I think that's where it comes to um, obesity. But regardless of that, so that's an interesting topic. But yeah, just be in good shape, be fit,
It's
and
yeah,
it's
it's
not
just
very
that's a
difficult.
starting point. That's just the your top 20% if you're just not fat. I won't even, you know, not obese, not
Right,
fat. You don't
right,
have to be skinny. You
yeah,
don't have to be skinny. Just be in shape a little,
yes.
just a little. It's the
Mhm. Push-ups every day,
do some
do some
push-ups, do some
squats,
sit.
air squats. There's no need to actually go to the gym. But I mean, if you want to be in incredible shape, that's when you need progressive overload. You need
Yeah,
the stimulus of resistance to build up muscle. But if you're just talking about being slightly above average,
yeah,
well, a
just
lot above
athletically in
average,
shape. Just
yeah,
be able to swing a sledgehammer. You
right,
know, be able to split a piece of wood.
hmm,
You know, like that's just really,
yeah.
really basic things. Um,
Going back to
you know, we
the
talk
olden
about
times,
leadership. It's hard as a man to be a leader when you can't, you know, learn skills. Let's start there. I think
right?
today for young men, like now that you're kind of just getting my brain fired up, let's start with learning skills.
Okay,
Know how to change a tire.
right,
Like let's know how to drive a manual.
yes,
Like what kind of guy is in a situation where you go, "Oh my god, it's an emergency. We need to get to the hospital." Hey, drive us to the hospital. Yeah, I don't know how to drive a manual. Like
hmm,
what?
yeah.
That blows my mind. Just the most big. Can you start a chainsaw? Do you know how to run one? Can you split wood? Just the most basic of shit.
Okay. Okay.
I because once you start learning skills, you start building confidence.
There we go. That's
right?
that's what I've been
So
trying to that's what I've been trying to align there. There we go.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
goal.
yeah. It's like you got to get my brain to work. I've got some issues there. It takes a while for it to fire up. Uh, but yeah, like getting those skills, because those skills over time, each skill is one more notch that gives you
Mhm.
just a little bit more confidence, and it puts you one step up above the next guy.
For sure.
The next guy doesn't know how to run a chainsaw, or he can't change a tire, or he can't drive a manual, or he can't throw a punch, or he can't shoot a gun, or pick your poison. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter, but start learning things. Go to the gym, get in shape, start learning some skills.
Mhm.
And once you start building those skills up, your confidence will start building up. And
Yeah.
and confidence is probably one of the most, in my opinion, it's very important for being a leader,
Mhm.
right? You cannot be a leader if you're timid.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to follow you. If you like I said earlier, if you have no confidence in yourself, how do you expect to lead anybody and have anybody that you're leading to have confidence in you?
Precisely.
So
Precisely.
it's getting those skills, it's making decisions, right, wrong, or indifferent, but learning from those decisions and taking what you're learning and continuing moving forward on a regular.
With the decisions, it's also accepting ownership because I see that a lot of people, when they
Accountability.
make the wrong decision, they will try and pass the blame. But if it's
Oh
the
yeah.
right decision, they'll try and take the credit. And
Yeah,
I'm like, man,
accountability.
that is completely different to where I'm at, right? My thing is I always pass the credit and I take the blame because at the end of the day, when you learn to do that, it also frees up your team with the ability to make mistakes and not have crazy consequences coming down on them.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
have it.
Accountability is so big, and you'll be amazed at how much respect you will get from other people when you take account. So here, I'll just tell a stupid story
Mhm.
about accountability and how it's kind of funny and how you will earn somebody's respect by being accountable. When I went through EOD school, so we're talking 2008,
Okay.
young Sergeant Balassi
Yeah.
in EOD school. Me and my best friend were going through at the time, a guy that we were roommates together. We went through phase one, phase two of EOD school together. But we used to go back and forth to school, carpool back and forth, and we had gone one day and he had forgotten his ID. Can't get in without ID. So we had to turn around, race back, get his ID, and get to class.
Yeah.
Right. So got to be there at, we'll say, 9 a.m. We walked into that classroom at 9 a.m. and 45 seconds. Right. So, and we sit down in our seats and the teacher's not in there. And we look at each other and both of us immediately like, oh man, we made it. We weren't even in there about 10 seconds before the gunny walked in and goes, you two, you weren't here at 9 o'clock. See me at lunch.
Oh.
It's like, well, shit. So lunch comes around. We go in and he's talking to us. Why are you late? Blah, blah, blah. No excuses.
Mhm.
Like, I have no excuse for being late. We're late. It's that simple. I'm not going to
Yeah.
sit here and that in and of itself, he respected, right? We're not going to
Mhm.
make excuses. Cool. Then I'm just going to smoke the shit out of you. We spent the
Correct.
next 2.5 hours doing calisthenics and we couldn't stop laughing the whole time because in my head, I was like, God damn, I couldn't remember the last time I'd been smoked. I'm an NCO. Like, God damn, this doesn't happen anymore. And I couldn't stop laughing about it. But it was like we refused to make an excuse for it. And
Yeah.
so we're gonna take our punishments just like anybody else would take our punishments. Well, that night we're at Buffalo Wild Wings. That same gunny comes over, sits down, puts a pitcher of beer down on the table. We sit there and start bullshitting. You
Right.
know, it because it builds that, like, cool.
Respect.
You guys, yeah, you didn't try to pass the buck. You didn't make excuses. You didn't, it's like, nope, I screwed up. I will take my punishment
Yep.
as it is. It's okay. I'm a big boy. My ass is made out of bubble gum.
Stick
Like,
to
just shoot.
everything.
Chew away, baby. I don't even care anymore.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have had ass chewings by the best of them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's just recap before we cut it off.
Mhm.
Um, so one of the things that I think that was monumental out of this entire thing was that you said that bold skills, right? That is something that I think that a lot of people will find some retrobate in that they don't have the skills to,
No.
like you said, change a tire, start a chainsaw, and they might think that it's not useful in this day and age, but I can guarantee you
There will be
that
a day.
exactly. It's either there will be a day, or if you're with that beautiful woman that you decide to be with, and the tire goes out, and you don't know how to change a
You get to
tire,
be the hero. Yeah, you could
that's
either be the
instant.
hero or the retard.
Yeah.
You
Yep. Yep.
you
Yep.
know, pick your poison.
Yeah.
You and that's what gets me is it's the mind, and that's why I was saying earlier, the mindsets of people today is really interesting to me
Hmm.
because everybody just has this, they expect things to happen, but nobody wants to put in the effort to make it happen.
Yep. Well,
That's
it's the effort
quite
that makes it worthwhile, in my opinion.
yeah, it's the journey, it's not the destination, right?
Yeah.
It's the process that it took to get there. You know, I
Right.
can tell
Swing
you
field.
about the whole journey to become an EOD tech, but once I was an EOD tech, I was an EOD tech, you know?
Super.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
it is the journey, not the destination.
Awesome, Bjorn. It's been great talking to you, sir.
Oh, we will
You
do it
want to
again,
tell
I'm
the
sure.
you want to tell the viewers where they can find you and what sort of handles they can find you?
Right now, pretty much the only place I'm on and really throwing my 2 cents opinions and perspectives out into the world is X, or formerly Twitter,
Yeah.
at Mr. Balassi or American Bjorn.
Perfect. There we go. Well, thank you so much. We'll definitely have you on again, and it was great talking to you, sir.
Oh, absolutely. I thank you for inviting me. I enjoy our conversations.
Awesome, my brother. Have a fantastic day.